and welcome to Hot and Heavy, the Elaine Bennis podcast. I'm your host, Shivani Desai. Today I'll be talking about Season 8, Episode 13, The Comeback. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm great. I've had a busy week, which is really good. A lot of auditions to submit, self-tape auditions, my favorite kind, because I can just keep doing it until I nail it, you know? And sometimes I don't nail it, but I just send in the best of what I did. And sometimes I struggle calling whatever I sent in the best, but you get the point. It all depends on the day and the copy. Anyway, so it's been a good week. I'm going to give a little bit of a review here. A couple weeks ago, Greg of Greg's Sack Lunch had given us his review of the movie Unfrosted. Now, this is the Netflix film that Jerry Seinfeld stars in and produced. I guess he created it, produced it, wrote it, did all the things. And it's about the invention of the Pop-Tart. So if you remember, Greg wasn't that impressed with it. He called it a gene pick, which is very relevant to this episode since we'll be talking about Gene and Vincent. Now, I wouldn't quite put it as highbrow as a Vincent pick. It probably would be a Gene pick because it's so silly and stupid, but I thought it was really fun. I have to say, I was really prepared for it to be unwatchable, but it's stupid fun. And it's Jerry Seinfeld humor, and it's very glossy and it's fun to watch because of the sets and the performances are fun. There are so many little cameos by pretty big stars, but I have to say, I did not regret watching it. Now, would I watch it again? I might, maybe one more time. My husband my husband had taken the kids last weekend to Moab, so I was a free lady for a few days. And so I just decided to, watch it while they were gone. And I would watch it again to watch it with my husband, but I think it's not going to be on my frequently watched reel or anything like that. But I recommend it. If you're a Seinfeld fan, you'll recognize how dumb his humor is. Oh, and I did want to mention, this is just undeniable. Jerry Seinfeld, who, by the way, just turned 70, looks incredible in the movie. I think he got better with age, honestly. In Seinfeld, the fashion was bad. His hair was going through different stages of mullet, and it was just not a great look back then. But something about him aging, he looks incredible. For a 70-year-old man, he has certainly not fallen into the kind of usual aging type of things that you see with men that they don't get penalized for. But don't even get me started on that. But he looks great. You would never be able to believe he's a 70-year-old man. So anyway, that is my review. I recommend it. Just watch it for some silly fun. It's not going to be blowing the doors off of the Oscars or anything like that. I don't think it's going to be the pick at Sundance, that's going to make everyone cry and really be introspective. But it's just a silly movie, and I was smiling throughout. Another thing I wanted to let you guys know. So I booked a commercial that shoots in this weekend. I'm like, I think in a couple weeks. No, in like 4 days. But I'm very excited because I get to play an architect with a T-square. No, I don't think I'll have a T-square. It just made me laugh when I got the final notice that I'd booked the job, and they just you always scroll down on these emails and you see what you've booked, what character you've booked. And it said Shivani Desai, architect. And I was like, yes, I'm living a Costanza dream in this Boost Mobile commercial. So I'm really excited. It was just a little thing that I'm like, oh, I think my listeners would appreciate this. So just wanted to mention, I did just film an audition for yet another Peyton Manning spot. So because Peyton Manning lives here in Colorado, he films a lot of his national campaigns here. I think maybe that's just in his contract. He's like, hire local people, and I'm filming it here. So this is like the fifth or sixth thing I've auditioned for that would be with Peyton Manning in the spot. Everything from insurance to something about, what was the other one? I don't know. I can't remember all the different brands, but it's been multiple, and I've never gotten cast with Mr. Peyton Manning. I've gotten called back a couple times, but we shall see. But I do find it interesting. A little tea from the biz on this side of the biz. Whenever an audition comes through for something with Peyton Manning, the casting agent is always very clear to say, don't be too funny. Peyton wants to be the funny one. It's not said in those words, but it's very much implied. Now, this isn't to bash Peyton Manning at all. I think he's actually he's charming. He's very funny. I'm not a big football fan. I know he did football things too, guys. Don't come at me, but it's not to bash him at all. But I always find it interesting where the script will come through and it's like, hey, just keep it like very straight. Peyton likes to bring the humor. So your role is just to kind of have him play off of you and just play it, don't do any riffing. Don't be funny. So, which is kind of hard for me, you guys. I'm so funny. No, I can be a boring financial representative, which is what I had to be in this one, with the best of them. But it was just an interesting note that has been consistent with every audition notice that has come through with a Peyton Manning spot. So interesting, and then again, not to bash him at all. It's like, he's the big guy here. He's calling the shots clearly, but, and that's why they cast him in these commercials, obviously, because he does have the ability to be funny. He can act, unlike a lot of professional athletes. So I get it. That's why would he be the straight man while some nobody is riffing off of him, bebopping and scatting, if I may. I remember a real quick story. The first thing I auditioned for with Peyton Manning, the script had a lot of humor for the role that I was auditioning for. And we were playing off of each other. He had funny stuff. I had funny stuff. And so I was really excited, and I rehearsed it so much because I'm like, I can do this. I love the dialogue. It is actually funny for a commercial, which I think nowadays most of them are not funny. But I was so prepared for this callback. But then I get there and they're like, oh, by the way, they're completely new scripts. They're on the table. Just review them before you come in. You don't have to be off book. You can read from the script. And I'm like, what? Come on. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's like a few tweaks. No, the entire thing was rewritten to where the role I was auditioning for had zero comedy, but also just barely had a personality. And I totally bombed that callback and did not get the role. But that's just how it goes sometimes. Okay, I have babbled on long enough, so let's get into this episode. The synopsis for The Comeback is as follows. George gets zinged at an office meeting and struggles to think up a good comeback. Kramer decides to make Elaine the executrix of his, I guess it's the female version, not executor, executrix of his living will. I just learned something. I hope you did too. Then he goes into a coma after being hit repeatedly by tennis balls. Wrong, stupid synopsis writer. Kramer doesn't get into a coma. The tennis pro who sells Jerry an expensive new tennis racket turns out to be a terrible tennis player. Elaine bonds with a video store clerk after enjoying his staff recommendations. This episode was written by Greg Cavett and Andy Robin. We start out in Yankee Stadium. George is at a meeting, and as the meeting's going on, he is eating the shrimp that's on the table like it's his job. And so much so, a coworker says to him, "Hey, George, the ocean called. They're running out of shrimp." And everyone in this meeting loses their shit and laughs at George, which George doesn't take too well. And to continue that, in George's car next, he's driving. He's so mad at being humiliated at that meeting. He's mumbling to himself, "Ocean called." And then we see him realize something. Yes, that's what I should have said. Damn it. Next, we're at the health club. Jerry and George are going to play some tennis. Jerry is repeating the joke about the shrimp, and George is like, "Yeah, but listen to what I said to him. The jerk store called and they're running out of you." "Really? That's great. You said that?" Jerry asks. "No, I thought of it on the way over here." Oh, well, that's not the same. And George tells Jerry how sweet it would have been to have given that guy that comeback. Jerry needs to go get a can of balls in the pro shop, and George exits. The shop employee, Milos, introduces himself. Jerry asks for a can of balls for the nice guy. And then he sees Jerry's racket. Oh, you don't plan to hit these balls with that racket, do you? Ba 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 ba. Boom, ba-dum, boom, 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 boom. We have a Gilmore Girls Seinfeld connection. Mark Harlick, I don't know how to say his last name. He plays Milos, and he has appeared in Gilmore Girls, Season 6, Episode 9, The Prodigal Daughter Returns. He plays Stuart Woltz, the editor of the Stamford Gazette, who Rory harasses until she gets a job there. It's very annoying, in fact. In Gilmore Girls, he plays a much more straightforward character. It's not really funny, no comedy, but he's still great in that role. And side note, I mean, this Milos character and Mark Harlick, however you say it, Harlick, it's easily one of my top 3 guest stars on this show. Milos makes me laugh so hard. This performance is genius and he kills it. Next, we are in a video store. Elaine is looking at a videotape to rent, and Kramer comes up behind her, looking at the staff pics, Miss Bennis. And she's very happy to see him. It's very cute. She tells him that this Vincent guy always picks out the movies that she likes. Kramer's not into it. Vincent's an art house goon. He likes Gene. Ugh. Elaine thinks he's so stupid and mainstream. But Kramer actually this time went with his own pick, The Other Side of Darkness. Oh, Elaine said she's never heard of that one. Yeah, went straight to video. That makes me the premier. My take on this scene, another Elaine and Kramer scene that is pretty rare. We just got one in the last episode and we get more. So it's so fun. This episode is full of Elaine and Kramer scenes. Laner, Kramel. There's no name combo that's fun to say. So here we're establishing the plot for Elaine. She loves Vincent's picks, and she thinks Kramer's favorite, Gene, is stupid and mainstream. So we have that established here. Oh my God, the straight to video line, and coupled with that makes me the premier. These are both lines that we use in our house before streaming came along, I guess. We don't really say straight to video. Although every now and then when a pretty big movie with like pretty big stars, and I'm talking movies now that kind of have like an epic feel to them, when they come out just on like a Netflix or Amazon or something, we kind of make the correlation there. It's like, I feel like this was made to be in the theater, but it went straight to video, which is all we need to know. And for those of you who are not familiar with this concept, back in the day, if a movie went straight to video, it was known to be pretty awful. It means that for some reason, they did not want to risk paying the money to put it in the theaters because they knew they would be paying for empty seats. So that was the connotation of a straight to video film. And so I love it. It's so perfect and hilarious that Kramer would choose that. He went, oh, straight to video. Oh gosh. And then the little shrug by Elaine after Kramer walks away. It's so subtle, but she's just like, there you have it. It's very funny. All right, next we are in Jerry's apartment. Kramer is telling Jerry about The Other Side of Darkness. Says it's about a woman who goes into a coma. Well, he couldn't finish watching it, and he hands Jerry a paper to read. So Jerry reads what is basically Kramer's declaration that he doesn't want to be put on life support if he goes into a coma, and he declares Jerry be the one to make the decision, the executor. And he asks Jerry, can you do that for me, buddy? Well, Jerry's not sure that this is a legally binding document, even if he does type it up. Jerry tells him, you should speak to a lawyer. Well, apparently Jackie Chiles is not an option because he took out a restraining order on Kramer. He can't be within 200 feet of him. He couldn't even give him his Christmas present. And then Kramer notices Jerry's new racket. And Jerry's like, yeah, it was more than I wanted to spend, but the guy there said that it was the only one he uses. So Kramer throws Jerry's old racket away. Then Jerry notices that Kramer's makeshift will was written on the Z page of his address book. Oh yeah, I put all your Z's on the weights and measures page. This is an example of something so little. It doesn't really enhance anything in the story, but it certainly enhances the episode because it's so this is giving flavor to these characters and it's so great. Like these little moments, that's what separates just mediocre shows to really great shows, in my opinion. All right, next we are in Elaine's bedroom. She is just overcome with emotion watching this movie, crediting Vincent's pick. Bravo, Vincent. Bravo. And the phone rings. She answers it. What? Did you enjoy the movie? A voice says. Who is this? It's Vincent. Vincent's picks? The same. My take on this scene, we get fully crying Elaine, and it's great. We usually get choked up Elaine, but fully crying Elaine is very good. JLD pulls this off very well. She does it in a funny way, not a way that you're like, ooh, what's wrong with Elaine? And Vincent's done it again. I love it. He just keeps nailing it when it comes to these movies. And okay, answering the phone, what? I want that to be my new thing. What? So annoyed, just right off the bat. There's nothing much else here. We just see that Vincent has reached out to Elaine and she couldn't be more flattered. Next, we are in a tennis club, kind of a tennis bubble, and Elaine and Jerry have just played some tennis. Jerry's surprised that Vincent called her. She figures that, he must have gotten my number from the computer. We talked for like 2 hours. To a guy you've never met. Your screening process is becoming ever more rigorous. She makes a face at him. She tells him that she's trying to meet him, but he's never at the store. He sets his own hours, apparently. A guy calls over from behind them for a little help. His ball has rolled over to them. Elaine throws it back, and he kind of stumbles to get it and tries to hit it and misses. She tells Jerry, that guy is terrible. She asks how come they have to play at this crummy place instead of the health club. Oh, because George used up all his guest passes. A ball rolls over again, and Jerry's like, come on. And he throws it back to the guy and then realizes it's Milos. And Milos is not too happy to see Jerry. He's like, hey, how you doing? He tries to get away from Jerry as fast as he can. Okay, we should wrap it up here. And he tries to hit the ball and it goes straight into the net. And Jerry looks down at his expensive racket and looks back at Milos. My take on this scene, I really feel like JLD is choking on her water a bit here. It's like her voice sounds all shaky and she can barely get her dialogue out. And I'm so surprised that they kept this take. But then I thought, it might have something to do with the circumstances around filming at this location. It was a total nightmare, but I'll get more into that later. Jerry's dig at Elaine about her screening process, it always cracks me up. And he's not wrong. We are fully in desperate Elaine era. And like she said, she's running out of guys in this city, Jer. And the reveal of Milos being a terrible tennis player, good God, it is the funniest. That physical acting, I mean, it's all so perfect. I can't say anything else. It's just awesome. All right, next we are in Jerry's apartment. Elaine doesn't quite understand why Jerry's so mad about Milos being a bad tennis player. And he's like, Elaine, I paid $200 for this racket because he said it was the only one he plays with. He could have played just as well with a log. Kramer enters and he's set up the whole executor stuff for Jerry. And Elaine's like, executor? Kramer wants to die with dignity, Jerry says. Oh, there's a feather in your cap. And Kramer tells Elaine, I don't want to be a vegetable. I just want out. George enters. Ooh, he's in a good mood. Says, sometimes the gods smile upon you, my friends. Did you get someone to take that Canadian quarter? Well, no, it turns out that he got another meeting with Riley and he bets he can make him say that line again. Elaine asks, what are you talking about? So Jerry explains what happened at the meeting. And Elaine laughs so hard, just throws her head back, keeps laughing for a long time. Of course, George is so pissed. And so he says, listen to the comeback. The jerk store called and they're running out of you. Silence. Oh, come on. And then Elaine offers up, how about this? Your cranium called. It's got some space to rent. What does that mean? George says. And then Jerry offers up, hey, the zoo called. You're due back by 6. And George is getting more and more irritated. You're not helping me. Kramer just says, hey, look, tell him you had sex with his wife. I'm not looking for another line. I got the line, he says. George, think about it. You're married. What if someone told you they just had sex? And George blows up. He hates writing in a large group. Everything gets homogenized and you lose the whole edge of it. He says, I'm going with Jerk Store. Jerk Store is the line. Jerk Store. And then he exits. Kramer notices that Jerry took his old racket out of the garbage. It's still got some spring in the strings. And Kramer gets concerned. You're the executor of my will and you can't even let go of a tennis racket? And Jerry says, trust me, Kramer, given the legal opportunity, I will kill you. Such a great line. Kramer turns to Elaine and he asks her to be the executor. She's surprised. Me? He's like, yes, you're perfect. You're a cold-hearted businesswoman who doesn't mind stomping on a few throats. Oh, come on, Elaine says, so flattered. My take on this scene, my favorite. Everyone in the same scene, all conversing together. It's the best. It's the magic formula of this show. I love it. But it does seem to happen less and less as the series goes on. But when it does happen, we get these moments. It's the best part of the episode, and there's no exception there. It's always, always the most enjoyable, the most funny, the interaction between all the characters. Perfect. Elaine, oh my goodness, is so proud of her cranium comeback. And I love how after she says it, she's kind of like chuckling and then she looks to Jerry for validation. Like, right? That was good. Jason Alexander is really at the top of his game here. This whole episode, really, but this scene when he gets so mad at all of them, the retort to Elaine is so funny to me. I don't know. He's like, what does that mean? And everyone's comeback suggestion to George is perfect for their character. Like Elaine's is just okay. It's amusing, but it's something a non-comedian would think was really funny if they came up with it. Jerry's is a bit more clever, very Jerry. And Kramer's is exactly what he would say. It's just way too extreme. There's no real humor to it. And he doesn't really get that that's the point. It's not to be funny. He's just like, no, you're really going to get him with this. It's like, it'll get the job done. And I got to call out the physicality of Jason Alexander here. That flap down with his arms when he keeps repeating, Jerk Store. Oh, I can't even describe how much I love that. And you can totally see Jerry Seinfeld breaking, by the way, when he's doing that. I think it's the second one when he goes down with his arm. Jerk Store is the line. Elaine's reaction to being called ruthless and a cold businesswoman, it's just perfect. JLD is a master here. And this is why we love Elaine. She thrives on being this. This is why the character was so rare to see on TV at the time, especially in comedy. You know, we love that of course she wants to be beautiful and desirable, but this compliment, being a cold-hearted businesswoman, she steps on throats, doesn't give a shit. Oh my goodness. Like it's just the best thing she could hear. And I love the way she says, oh, come on. It's perfectly delivered. Okay, next we're at the lawyer Shellback's office. And he's going over scenarios with Kramer and Elaine. The scenarios of what if Kramer is in this condition? What do you want to do? And Elaine is doing exactly what Kramer said she would. She's giving her opinion. She's not pulling any punches. Yank it like you're starting a mower. And for most of the scenarios, they are pulling that plug, except the one where he can eat, but machines do everything else. Elaine says, I'd stick. Yeah, because I could still go to the coffee shop. That's right. My take on this scene, gosh, I really feel like this scene could have been better. I love the setup and Elaine's vibe. You know, she's really owning that cold-hearted persona that Kramer pumped her up with. But I feel like the scene falls flat to me. I feel like they needed to amp up Elaine's stomping on throats thing. Like maybe Kramer has some doubts or hopes about the scenarios that he's being presented with, and she keeps overruling him. Like she's just like putting her foot down. So I just think the scene, it's too short. It's too short for how well set up it is for comedy. Now, it's not a terrible scene, but for a Kramer and Elaine scene, we could have gotten a lot better. Okay, next we are at the health club. Jerry enters the pro shop and Milos could not be more apologetic. You know, it's his great shame, but he tells Jerry no one can know how he can't play tennis because he might lose his business. And he offers Jerry a year membership to the club for free. You could do that? For you, anything. And he exits. Then Jerry notices a beautiful woman shopping and they smile at each other. Milos comes back. Game, set, match, huh, Milos? He says, motioning over to the woman. And Milos says, sorry, they says there's no ways I can do that about the free membership. Now, I usually try and avoid doing an accent because it might be offensive. But since this isn't Mark Harlick's real accent, I feel like I can do a Milos accent because it's so over the top too. Anyway, he says, is there anything else I can do for you? I refund your money. Jerry's like, I don't even care about the money. He just feels like he was taken advantage of by the worst tennis player, and Milos shushes him. He swears to Jerry he will make it up to him. Yeah, sure. Jerry walks away and says to the beautiful woman, tennis anyone? And exits, and she blushes. Next, we're at the video store. Kramer and Elaine are at the store, and Elaine finds the movie that Vincent was telling her about, The Pain and the Yearning. An old woman experiences pain and yearning. She looks down on the box. 192 minutes. Ooh, Kramer says, that's a lot of yearning. She says how his picks are great, but, Vincent's choices are emotionally exhausting her. And Kramer thinks, you know what, you need some adolescent hijinks. And he looks up at the jean rack and picks out Weekend at Bernie's 2 for her. Oh, that's a hilarious premise. She kind of looks at both of them. She decides, I could use a chuckle, and puts back The Pain and the Yearning. She asks Kramer what he's getting. I'm going to finish The Other Side of Darkness. Oh, how much you have left? 2 hours. Yeah, she shot into that coma pretty quick. My take on this scene, this is just moving the plot along. We're setting up the conflict that's soon to come for Elaine and Vincent. Again, I love that Kramer and Elaine are there together. They've clearly stopped by after the meeting with Shellback. Now, I never saw Weekend at Bernie's, either one of those movies. I have to say, even at the age of, I think it was around 10 or 11 when the first movie came out, I remember seeing the commercials and being like, it was too stupid for me at that age. I was like, this is stupid. How are they going to keep this going for so long? Even though I loved me some Andrew McCarthy. Oh, I had a crush on him, but I was like, sorry, Andrew, not gonna go see Weekend at Bernie's. All right, next we see Elaine in bed, and she's yelling at the TV, hating Weekend at Bernie's too. She's saying, Bernie is dead, you morons. Just because he's wearing sunglasses, he looks alive? How long is this weekend anyway? And she looks at the box. Ugh. The phone rings. It's Vincent, and he is not happy with her. A gene pick. How could you? She tells him, I'm sorry, it didn't mean anything. I wasn't even going to rewind it. And he hangs up on her. Vincent? My take on this scene, so back to Weekend at Bernie's 2, I'm on Elaine's side here. Because even at that young age, like I was saying, I was like, that's not going to fool anyone because he's wearing sunglasses. I had the exact same thought just seeing the commercial. And the fact that she's watching a sequel, I mean, I'd be calling them morons too, because this is the second movie. Did they embalm him? I don't understand how this is happening, and I have no interest in actually watching it. Anyway, this is all to say I really agree with Elaine here. I'm glad to be on her side with Weekend at Bernie's too. Now, if I'm missing something, if any of you out there are huge Weekend at Bernie's fans, please let me know. I mean, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's something there. This whole Vincent thing is very funny. I love how dramatic he is. How could you? Vincent is keeping an eye on Elaine's rentals. And her line, I wasn't even going to rewind it. That is great. So again, for those youngins out there who did not experience going to the video store and renting physical tapes, you were required to rewind them before returning them. And if you didn't, it was usually $1 get added to your tab there. So it was in your best interest to rewind the tape before you returned them. I remembered this as I was making my notes. So the whole functionality of rewinding was very taxing on VCRs. So this product was invented where it was just a rewinder. So it was just you stuck the tape in, it didn't play anything, nothing. It was just a little machine that you could rewind the tapes in so that the life of your VCR could be spared, because if you kept rewinding in your VCR, that was going to take a toll. And so anyway, I just remember we had one that was in the shape of a race car. And my dad would be like, don't rewind in the VCR, put it in the rewinder. It was such a big deal. Oh, the stone ages of tech. Am I right? Okay, next we're at Yankee Stadium and the meeting is commencing. George is all ready. He's got all the shrimp on the table in front of him. And he notices Riley isn't there. He asks about him. And his coworker says, Riley doesn't work here anymore. I didn't hear about that, George says. Yeah, we only wake you up for the important meetings. And then everyone once again laughs and laughs at George. All right, next we're on the street. Jerry is walking and sees the beautiful woman from the pro shop. She introduces herself and tells him that Milos gave her his address. I hope you don't mind me waiting for you here. Oh, that Milos, Jerry says. Jerry offers, why don't we go get some coffee? She gets a little closer. Why don't we just go up to your apartment? And then she starts walking into his building and he says, it's got to be an easier way. One thing that bugs me, this is my nitpick for the episode. She starts walking up some stairs to get into Jerry's building. Now, we've seen the exterior of Jerry's building. That ain't his building. So I always thought that was such a weird choice and so obvious. Like you see her, it's at the very corner of the screen. Oh, you know what? Maybe I'm thinking now. No, you could see it even in okay. I was just thinking maybe it was the aspect ratio of the Netflix, but but you can see her walking up those stairs. And I'm like, that's not Jerry's building. Nitpick over. I did want to highlight the actress here, Ivana Milicevic. Sorry, Ivana, if I'm saying that incorrectly. I know you're listening. Anyway, she plays Patty, and she's also appeared in Vanilla Sky, Love Actually, and she was a Bond girl in Casino Royale. Fun fact for me personally, she grew up in Troy, Michigan, which was the next town over from where I grew up in Royal Oak and attended Athens High School. Another fun fact is that her husband's name is Patty, except it's Paddy. I just thought that was interesting. I do like her in this episode. She's very magnetic. She's got that beauty that is required. And rarest of the rare for these love interests, she gets to show some comedic muscles. I think she does a really good job with that. So bravo, Ivana. All right, next we're at Kramer's apartment. He's watching The Other Side of Darkness, and we hear what's going on, and that the woman comes out of the coma. She feels so rested and refreshed. Get me a toothbrush. And Kramer is totally shocked at what he's seeing. Next, we're in Jerry's apartment. And Jerry tries to make some conversation with Patty, but she says, enough talk, Jerry. She goes in to kiss him, but then turns away. I can't go through with it, even for him. Who? Jerry asks. Milos, my husband. And she collapses on the couch crying. Later at Jerry's apartment, George is recounting what happened. So concerned was Milos that word of his bad tennis playing would get out, he offered his wife in some sort of sexual payola. Jerry's just like, he's new around here. So, details. Jerry's like, I didn't sleep with her because of society, right? Yes, George, because of society. Jerry asks how the meeting went. Riley's no longer with the club, George tells him. You're better off, Jerry says. You just can let it go now. You never had the right comeback anyway. Oh, George disagrees. Jerk store would have smoked that guy. Smoked him, I say. Kramer enters. He tells Jerry how in The Other Side of Darkness, the woman wakes up at the end. Ugh, totally spoiler alert for George. Thanks a lot. He wanted to see that. Kramer tells Jerry, I didn't think it was possible to come out of a coma. I didn't think it was possible for someone not to know that, Jerry says. George asks from the crapper, how was Eric Roberts as the husband? Oh, unforgettable, Kramer says. Quick side note, my husband met Eric Roberts at the baggage claim at the Detroit airport many years ago. It was after his appearance in The Dark Knight. And we love him. We love The Dark Knight, first of all, in this house. And then Eric Roberts, his performance, like we are delighted by him during that movie. So it was sort of this weird moment where my husband's like, I don't want to bother him, but we've been literally just gushing over Eric Roberts because of the Dark Knight performance. So he went up to him. Eric Roberts could not have been nicer. My husband told him like, hey, we just so enjoyed your performance in Batman, The Dark Knight, you know, and he was so tickled. Like he was really flattered. And my husband asked for a picture, and this picture, I'm going to see if my husband can send it to me. I'm sure it's still in his phone, but it's like they're old buddies. Eric Robert has his arm around him, like just like smiling big, like it's the sweetest thing. And yeah, my husband was just on cloud nine. He's like, that was amazing. So anyway, just an Eric Roberts story for you all. Back to the scene. Kramer tells Jerry, I got to find Elaine. She's going to pull my plug. Next, we're at the video store. Elaine goes up to the staff picks rack and sees that on Vincent's shelf, only one movie is there, and it's called Betrayed. And she knows it's a message to her. Oh, Vincent, I'm so sorry. Kramer comes up to her and tells Elaine that he's changed his mind about the coma. I think I'm up for it now. Elaine is so pissed at him. Don't you know what you've done? Basically, because of his dumb recommendation, Vincent is mad at her. An employee comes over and removes Vincent's name tag and replaces it with Jean. Elaine's like, wait, what's going on? He tells her that Vincent stopped making pics. Well, how will I know which movies to watch? We have a variety of Jean pics. Jean's trash, she says. And the employee says, I'm Jean. And Elaine's so embarrassed, but Kramer is very delighted. My take, it's a pretty amusing scene. We see how Vincent is feeling via his movie pick Betrayed. And I have to say, it's just funny. And I know it's because they built the set, so of course they're going to do this. But it's just hilarious to me how many times Elaine and Kramer end up in this location. Like, how many videos are you renting a week? I guess if you're single, that's what you do. Oh, that sounded like a real dig at single people. No, I did the same thing, guys, when I was single. So I'm not, it is true. I was at Hollywood Video and Blockbuster a lot when I was single. The Jean moment is really good too. I like that. I'm Jean. All right, next we are at the health club. Jerry is assuring Milos, look, I was never planning on telling anyone about your horrible tennis playing. Oh, Milos is really depressed. He says he has much bigger problems to fry. Paddy has lost all respect for me. Well, I guess that's the chance you take when you dabble in the flesh trade, Jerry says. He asks Jerry for a favor. He says, would you let me beat you at tennis? He wants to show Paddy that he's still a man. Jerry agrees, but only if there aren't any other girls around. I mean, he wants to be a man too. Next, we're at Monk's. Elaine shows Jerry what Vincent sent her in the mail, the play button from his VCR. Jerry, I don't know why. This is another like aside, but he's like, wow, look how far back it goes. It's like a tooth. George enters and he says that he found Mr. Ocean Phone. I love that term. He's working for Firestone in Akron, Ohio. George says he's leaving first thing tomorrow. You're flying to Akron just to zing a guy? And Jerry's like, look, it's not because of him. It's just to have a line like jerk store and to never use it. He couldn't live with himself, he says. And Elaine just tells him, there are no jerk stores. It's just a little confusing is all. George is not backing down. He says it's smart. It's a smart line and a smart crowd will appreciate it. And he's not going to dumb it down for some bonehead mass audience. He starts pointing to everyone in the diner and they all look at him. And he says, not you. My take on the scene, we see creepy Vincent coming out with sending her the VCR play button. In the notes about nothing, they said that Elaine was supposed to kind of go on about Vincent, saying, well, you know what I think? He's got some grotesque physical deformity, but underneath all of that just lies a beautiful, beautiful soul. And Jerry's like, so your fantasy is being rationalized by a deformity now. And she responds, well, why not shake things up a bit? Once again, Jason Alexander steals this scene. The mission to zing Riley is just fantastic. I love just how keyed up George is for this entire episode. JLD's delivery of, there are no jerk stores. It's just a little confusing is all. Of course she would call out why the line is not great to George, but there's no convincing him. Like I said, he's just like tunnel vision. Like, this is the best line I've ever come up with. It's worth traveling to a different state to zing him with it. I also like that even though it's a Benestanza exchange, she is trying to be helpful by telling him, like, look, it's not that great because there are no jerk stores, you know? Like, she could easily just be like, this is such dumb shit. But she just is like, it's just confusing because of that, you know? I like that she's trying to be a little bit gentle with him. All right, next, we're in Elaine's bed. She's watching The Pain and the Yearning, I think, just from what we hear from the screen. And she gets a call from Vincent. She's so excited. Where are you? I have to meet you. He tells her no. He can't bear to have anyone see him. She tells him, oh, I won't judge you like everyone else. You're strange and beautiful and sensitive. Now let's have a look at you. Okay, he agrees. Then he asks for a few things for her to bring from the store. He hasn't been out in a while. My take on this scene, it just moves the story along. Vincent agrees to meet her and asks for some things to be brought with her. The funniest part to me in this scene is hearing the dialogue from The Pain and the Yearning. It's just the old lady, I think, talking about, oh, brittle bones, how I long to be out of this pain. It's funny. All right, next we have a quick scene of Kramer in his car. So it's not very explicitly explained, which is fine, but he's clearly trying to be so careful to not get in an accident or anything like that, maybe get into a coma before he changes his will. So that's why he's carefully driving so slow. All these cars are honking at him, and he tells them to go around, you bunch of crazies. All right, next we're at Shellback's office. Kramer is there for the meeting, but his slow driving made him several hours late. The assistant tells him that Mr. Shellback's gone for the day. He has a tennis lesson. The actress here is Fatima Lowe. She plays the secretary. There are not a lot of credits to her name. It doesn't look like she pursued acting after having a recurring character on Beverly Hills 90210. But she's fine as a secretary. I think she does a good job. Next, we're back at that tennis club, the Big Bubble. Patty is watching Jerry and Milos play, and Jerry is throwing the match as they discussed, but Milos is really going after him. Another game for Milos! And Jerry's like, yeah, you're on fire today. Milos, he's just yelling out, look at this guy, he's awful, he's not even a man, not even married like me. Jerry's like, okay, look, I don't mind rolling over here, but can you lighten up on the whole not being a man? Everybody, look, the little chicken girl wants me to ease up. He can't handle it. He cries like a woman. Jerry is not happy. Next, we're in Vincent's hallway. Elaine arrives with the bag of stuff. She kind of primps herself a little bit and knocks on the door. It only opens a crack. Vincent says to leave the stuff and go. Well, can't I come in? No, he says. And then she pours her heart out, putting her head in the doorway. Oh, Vincent, don't shut me out. I know you feel what I feel. All of a sudden, a woman asks if she can help Elaine. Oh, damn it, we hear Vincent say. She says that she's here to see Vincent. Well, I'm his mother. She pushes the door open and we see a young guy and he screams, my acne, and runs away. Acne, Elaine says and looks at the mom. The mother then takes the bag and looks in it and she finds vodka, cigarettes, fireworks. What kind of a sick woman brings this to a 15-year-old? Elaine says, we have the same taste in movies. Did he send you part of our VCR? Elaine removes the play button that's on a chain around her neck and hands it to her. The mother enters the apartment. Vincent closes the door. Elaine drops the bag, but takes the vodka and saunters out. The actress in this scene is Peggy Mannix. She plays Vincent's mother. She's also appeared in ER and Monk. She's also a very accomplished theater actress and is married to John Slattery, but not that John Slattery. I was so shocked. I was looking at her IMDb and it said spouse John Slattery. And I was like, hold on a second. Look, I know this sounds very shallow, but she's a lot older than him. And I'm like, that's who he married? But anyway, I read her bio and it literally says her husband, John Slattery. No, not that John Slattery. So I thought that was kind of funny. But she's great as Vincent's mother. So stern, really plays well against JLD. She does a really good job. Ba 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 ba. Bom ba bom 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 bom. We have a Gilmore Girls Seinfeld connection again. Vincent in the flesh is played by Danny Strong, who played Doyle McMaster. He was the editor of the Yale Daily News. He appeared in 21 episodes of Gilmore Girls, and he's very funny in that role. He's also gone on to be one of the most successful writers in Hollywood. It's pretty amazing. He created the show Empire, which was a huge hit. He wrote the amazing HBO film Game Change about Sarah Palin's run for vice president. It is seriously so good. Julianne Moore plays Sarah Palin. Woody Harrelson plays the campaign manager. Ed Harris plays John McCain. Anyway, it is, if you guys haven't seen it, I'm sure it's on Max. It is incredible. And Vincent, my acne, wrote it. And he also wrote both parts of the Hunger Games Mockingjay movies. And on top of that, many other films and many other TV shows. He's just super accomplished. He's won awards. And it all started by him yelling, "My acne," on Seinfeld. And not really. He had done some other shows prior to Seinfeld, but I think it's pretty amazing all he's done since. My take on the scene, I think it's a great scene. Very good way to conclude the Elaine plot with her meeting Vincent. I like pleading Elaine. It's a sort of rare, serious moment of the show where she's trying to get him to open the door. I won't judge you. And that moment being interrupted by the mother is just perfect. And I love hearing, "Oh, damn it," from behind the door. Elaine's reaction when he says, "My acne," and runs away. I love the way she's like, "Acne." It's so funny to me too, that she doesn't try to explain to the mother, "Oh my God, I had no idea he was 15. All she says to the mother is, "We have the same taste in movies." It's such an unexpected reaction, but that's what makes it funnier to me. Same with that play button around her neck. I mean, just desperate Elaine here. She's got the play button on a chain around her neck. It's just amazing. And speaking of buttons, the button to the scene where Elaine takes the vodka bottle and just walks out in that way, kind of spinning it. It's perfect. JLD has a great saunter, great physical acting there. All right, next we're back at the tennis bubble. Jerry and Milos are playing. "Look at the big baby. Are you wetting yourself? Maybe it's time for you to be changed." And Jerry's had it. So he hits a hard serve, which of course Milos can't get. And he says under his breath, "What are you doing?" "Oh, the baby got lucky on that one." Kramer enters and sees Shellback at his lesson, and he calls over to him. As Kramer's walking to Shellback, Jerry hits another hard shot at Milos, which Milos couldn't get, but in his attempt to return it, he throws his racket. The racket hits the guy holding the automatic ball machine, so he falls over, pulling the machine with him, and the ball starts shooting out at Kramer and keeps pelting him in the face over and over and over. Next, we are in Akron at the Firestone meeting, and George has a platter of shrimp. Riley is there. And he says, "So you're proposing a snow tire day at Yankee Stadium?" George is just eating away and offers up the shrimp to anyone else. The boss is like, "This really doesn't make a lot of sense." "Well, you never know. Let's see how many I can fit in my mouth," George says. And Riley tees it up. "Hey, George." George pauses and waits for it, just looks at him. "The ocean called. They're running out of shrimp." And on cue, everyone laughs. Well, George stands up, so excited. "Oh, yeah, Riley? Well, the jerk store called and they're running out of you." No one laughs. Riley comes back with, "What's the difference? You're their all-time bestseller." And everyone loses their shit. George is humiliated again, so angry. So he decides to pull it out. Kramer's line, "Oh, yeah? Well, I had sex with your wife." The room goes silent and Riley's face gets very serious. The boss stands up right next to George and says, "His wife is in a coma." All right, next we're at the hospital and Kramer is asleep in bed. Elaine enters and asks, "How is he?" "He's pretty groggy. He's been sleeping a lot," Jerry says. Elaine's carrying a VCR. She thought a gene pick would cheer him up. She spots one right next to the bed, yanks the plug out, and Kramer wakes up to see her with a plug in her hand, and he starts screaming. The tag in the episode is George in his car again, stewing about the comeback fail. "Wife's in a coma. Well, the life support machine called, and then in his head, we don't hear it, he comes up with another comeback that he thinks is gold, and he turns the car around. "You're meat, Riley. You just screwed yourself." My take on the earlier scene, a very sweet friend moment here. I always have to point that out, but Jerry and Elaine are there for Kramer. They're in the hospital. It's so cute. So nice, too, of Elaine to bring him a gene pick. Although, okay, another nitpick here. My detailed brain won't let me let this go, but where the hell is she going to hook up the TV? Whatever. Anyway, doesn't matter. But it is very funny. I think it's a great way to end the episode where Kramer sees her with the plug unplugged in her hand. She did pull his plug. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break and I will see you on the other side. If you're in the market for a home that really protects you, is filled with like-minded folks, and only runs on electricity, then you're in luck. Your Cranium Condominiums is a sustainable living community unlike any other developments in the world. At Your Cranium Condominiums, we will get to know you in order to figure out where you will most thrive in the development. For example, if you're an artist, someone creative with a lot of scarves and vegan tendencies, you will be placed in a beautiful East Wing condo. Cranium East is filled with your people. Conversely, if you're, say, a merchandise planner for a major retailer, practically having sex with Excel spreadsheets all day, then you will feel right at home in Cranium West. Every condo in the West Wing is perfectly symmetrical with beige everything. If you're thinking, but what if I'm a musician married to a CPA? First of all, what? And secondly, we do have some units right in the middle of the property called Cranium We'll See. Both of you will have access to each wing, and we'll see. Incidentally, there is a divorce lawyer on staff here at Your Cranium Condominiums. The minimum age to rent at Your Cranium Condominiums is 25 when you're fully formed, and we do have a strict policy on frozen items being stored in your home. Due to the delicate design, extreme cold consumed very quickly can shut down the entire development. You will also enjoy an intricate communication system within the property we call the neuron pathway, where information travels up to 268 miles an hour to your fellow craniumites. And don't worry about leaving the property to find your next meal. There is a Noodles & Company located in each wing, and every morning fresh melon is served in the lobby. Visit our website www.givemehead.noggin to start your journey at the best home of your life. Each new resident will receive a complimentary visit to the community movie theater Gene and Vincent's Picks Cineplex, complete with a free movie of their choice and all-you-can-eat Juji fruits. Your Cranium Condominiums. Your cranium called. It's got some space to rent. And we're back. A couple things from the extras I wanted to mention. In the inside look, so this is what I was alluding to before. So apparently the whole location where the Crummy Club, as Elaine calls it, not the health club, where they show Jerry and Milos playing, because there are no indoor tennis courts in LA. They had to tent an outdoor tennis court for this episode. But it just so happened that very week, huge thunderstorms came through Southern California. It was part of the El Nino phenomenon. And it just became a nightmare. I mean, you can see actually what you know, in the episode, you can see that there's water just pooled in different corners. I mean, they were talking about the crew just having dryers. They're trying to dry the court. They're trying to hold up the tent because with all the water that was collecting on top, it was just sagging. And that after they got the master shots, which means like kind of the wide shots, they packed everything up and got out of that tent. And literally right after everyone got out safely, everything collapsed. I mean, like 6,000 pounds of water just collapsed. And if that had happened, they even said like, if that had happened like 20 minutes earlier, we would have lost people. Like it was insane. The voice of Vincent on the phone is Robbie Benson, and he is a very famous voice actor. He is, I mean, hundreds, maybe even thousands of roles. Oh my God. Like his resume is super long. He voiced the Beast on Beauty and the Beast, the film back in the early 90s, which I thought was really cool. So they said that they wanted to hire him because they thought it would be funny if Vincent had this very kind of romantic, charismatic voice. And Robbie Benson was the guy at the time to do that. Okay, I'm going to move on to kind of a new segment that I don't know if it's going to happen every week. But so on TikTok, I asked for people to help me out with any comebacks that have made an impact on their life. I said, whether you've given it, whether you've received a comeback, whether you just witnessed a comeback, what is your favorite comebacks. So I actually got some engagement with that, which I'm very excited about. I'm really working on getting more engagement on TikTok. So that's a whole different story. All right. So let me go ahead and read some of the comments. All right. So Crow, that's his TikTok name, Crow, he or she, I guess I don't know, says, I just say you can go smoke a dirty turd in hell. Wow. It's very insulting, very graphic. User a billion numbers said, you've swallowed so many children that everything you say is childish. Even more graphic. Good Lord. Hans said that he loves, what are you, a communist? Apparently his buddy would say that to people. And he said the first time that I heard it was when I said I didn't like celery in my tuna salad. And he said, what are you, a communist? That is very funny. Nice one, Hans. Not All That Wander says that she had a video go viral. Apparently she made some commentary about that kicker who made those controversial comments about women and what their vocation should be. And a lot of guys were commenting that, well, the guy's a millionaire. And my favorite comeback was, it's wild to tout another man's money as clout. That is really good. I love that. Yeah, it's like, okay, great. He's a millionaire. So are a lot of terrible people with terrible opinions. Why does that matter? Oh, Not All That Wander. I like that a lot. And then KTB said Kim Kardashian. Now I got this, and I was glad I got this. It's not calling someone Kim Kardashian, which it might be a big insult, a good comeback for some people. But there is a very famous blooper from Parks and Rec where they're talking about a comeback. And Chris Pratt says, well, Kim Kardashian had a good comeback. And this was clearly an ad lib because everyone's like, I don't know if she did. And he's like, well, no, she got cum on her back from that video, right? And everyone just loses it. So it's a really good blooper. So KTB, I totally got your little joke there. And it delighted me. And Kenny, who's a friend of the pod, he has contributed quite a bit to this podcast. He wrote me and he said, like George, I typically have a comeback well after the fact. Now, in this particular instance, I wasn't trying to respond to a zinger, but I felt it was so good it was worth noting. Anyhow, in this particular instance, I was able to accommodate a request from a coworker on short notice. They said, who's better than you? I responded with, me on a better day. I'm as proud of that response as George was of Jerk Store. Also, I love how proud George is of his line and how he refuses to dumb it down for some mass audience. I like that. Who's better than you? Me on a better day. I was kind of alluding to that about my auditions, right? Like sometimes the best is just mediocre, but on a different day, my best could really be the best. Thank you so much, Kenny. But wait, there's more Kenny, you guys. He sent me an audio clip, which I thought was worth playing for everyone. So let me go ahead and find it.
Shivani, by now I'm sure you sang your theme song for Gilmore Girls / Seinfeld, because as you already know, Milos appeared on the show. However, do you know what original movie trilogy that he and a number of other Seinfeld actors appeared on? Pause for dramatic effect. That's right. Milos appeared in Jurassic Park 3. On the second movie, The Lost World, Mr. Pitt actually plays a butler to John Hammond. And I found out today that Slippery Pete is also in that movie. And then in the original, at the very beginning, Marcelino from the Little Jerry episode, he's the one that's digging up and finds the mosquito that starts the whole franchise. And clearly Wayne Knight played the prominent role, which everybody knows. So now as far as the newer movies, don't know if there's any Seinfeld connections, and I don't know if there's any others, but just thought it was worth sharing.
Thank you, Kenny. And thank you for carrying on my mashup of theme songs. That was so good. But wow, Jurassic Park. Yeah, the original trilogy. A lot of Seinfeld folks. That makes sense. You know, it's like it was in the 90s. These actors were pretty hot because, I mean, hey, they were getting on Seinfeld. So it makes sense. Thank you so much, Kenny, for sending that in. I so enjoyed it. And now it's time to move on to Greg's Sack Lunch. Greg is our most dedicated contributor, and every week he sends in his thoughts. First, I find in Greg's sack his overall thoughts. He says, Okay, this might just be my favorite episode of the season, and I have been waiting for it to come up for review. Obviously, George's jerk store comeback is what this episode is most remembered for, but I think Elaine's story with the video rentals is so genius that it's my favorite part of this one. Even Kramer and Jerry get great stuff too, and what makes this one so strong is how much interaction we get between all four. Agreed. Wow. Calling this one of your favorites. That was a little unexpected. I'm not going to lie, but I can definitely see why. Next in Greg's sack are his favorite scenes and Elaine moments. He says, I love how Elaine is in bed crying, watching the Vincent pic and says, bravo, Vincent, bravo. And then he calls her right at that moment. This sets the scene for such a funny love story wherein Elaine falls for someone just based on his movie pics without ever even meeting him. And this phone call should be a creepy moment, but it's no creepier than when George got the name of the guy who rented the breakfast at Tiffany's and showed up at his house. When Vincent calls her later and yells about her renting a jean pic, it gets even creepier. But Elaine is so enamored by this mystery man, she's ignoring all of the red flags. Yes, like I keep saying, we are in Elaine's desperate era. She is running out of guys in this city, and even creepy ass Vincent, she's willing to see it through, you know? They have a connection. Next, Greg says, Elaine's laughing when Jerry tells her and Kramer about the guy mocking George with the ocean called they're running out of shrimp is some excellent laugh acting. And her subsequent dismissal of George's plan to come back is perfect as well. This scene makes the entire episode. Everyone chimes in on what George's comeback should be, all of which are funnier than George's. Kramer's is just blatantly ridiculous, but hilarious. The magic of this show is all four of them together, and it's somewhat rare in the later seasons as they really started splitting everyone into isolated plots. Holy shit, Greg, you are like in my brain. I did say that earlier. It is rare. Yeah. I mean, early on in this series, the show's bread and butter was just like those conversations, all four of them getting everyone's perspective, longer drawn out scenes, still hilarious, but not these like quick shots and quick scenes. And, you know, let's get to the funny right away. And you know what? I love both versions. I have to say, I think people tend to like the later versions that are not as long of scenes, but I can definitely appreciate both. Yes, the laugh acting. I didn't even call that out. Fantastic laugh acting. It's so over the top. And it just makes it funnier because you see George's face. He's like, God damn it. Are there comebacks better than his? I don't know. I think they're all pretty much on par. Even Jerry's, like I said, like everyone's comeback kind of fits their personality. Jerry's is like a little bit more clever. I don't know. Everything has to be so jokey. But I totally, same page with you there, Greg. I mean, it is when they're all in the room together, it's magic. Next, Greg says, another great moment in the same scene is when Kramer asks Elaine to go with him to do his will, and he calls her cold-hearted and calculating, and she's all flattered by it. It's a quick moment that leads into the second story for Elaine. Everything in that scene that follows with Ben Stein, the lawyer, is hilarious, and JLD gets all the humor. Yank it like you're starting a mower, and you can eat, but machines do all the rest. I'd stick are such great lines. And I love that Kramer and Elaine are paired up for this. They could have easily gone with Jerry for this, but it works better being Elaine. Yes, totally agree. Both of Elaine's plots here are very gender neutral. I mean, it could have been George with some female, employee picking out the movies or whatever, or Jerry even. But I love both of these storylines for Elaine. And like I said, that scene you're talking about in the lawyer's office, it's not bad, but I just feel like we could have gotten more. Elaine does get all the humor. You're not wrong there. But I guess I just wanted more of it. I'm selfish and greedy. What can I say? Greg goes on to say, Jean's trash. I'm Jean is one of my favorite interactions ever on the show. Anytime I hear someone's name is Jean, this plays in my mind. Oh, totally. How can you not? Jean's trash. The culmination of Elaine meeting Vincent's mother and finding out he's a teenager is perfect for this relationship that never would have happened anyway. They set it up like he's just dark and brooding like the Phantom of the Opera, but him actually being a minor is just the perfect Seinfeld way to end this. Elaine dropping the bag of stuff she brought and just grabbing the vodka as she defeatedly walks away is done so well by JLD too. Yes, that physicality, right? It's so, everything is being said through that walk, through the little twist of her wrist with that bottle. I mean, she's like, oh, fucking course this happened to me. And agreed, I love the way that they end this with the minor. It's like, oh, Elaine, come on. Your screening process, to Jerry's point, needs to be better. Next, Greg says, it's not an Elaine moment, but Kramer walking into the tennis court in slow motion with a big smile on his face and then getting hit by ball after ball to his head is one of my favorite Kramer moments in the whole series. It's great. Everything about this episode direction-wise is really strong in my opinion. I will say, so my kids are not the biggest Seinfeld fans. Well, they think they're not, but like when I'm watching, the episode for the week, I have to watch it multiple times. Every now and then they'll just come in, sit with me and watch with me. They always LOL. So I'm like, guys, see, Seinfeld's better than you think. But if you just ask them out of nowhere, they'll be like, I don't really like Seinfeld. Your kids are not going to always love what you love, you guys. That's my parenting tip for the day. And you have to accept it. Kids are going to disappoint you and you have to be prepared for that. But anyway, my daughter was watching with me and she kind of just caught the last like 10 minutes of the episode. And she laughed so hard at this part, Greg, that you're talking about with the balls hitting him in the face in slow motion, like full on cackling laughter. I was like, see, it's funny. Next in Greg's sack is his scene swap idea. He says, there is so much going on in this one, but it's all so good. Even Milos and the tennis, which is probably the weakest plot, is still funny. Therefore, no notes. And what they did so well was to have a lot of crossover with Elaine into the other stories. This is all I ever want. Wow. Greg, am I to infer from that you're not a big fan of Milos, or you're not like that? You don't think he's that funny? Because what is happening there? I'm getting a little angry here. Milos to me is like the best part of the episode. So we're not on the same page there. Not that I think the tennis plot is the best one, but I think he is the bright spot in this episode by far. He's so good. But I guess we just have to disagree sometimes, Greg. That's just part of life. Sometimes, just like my kids, you're going to disappoint me too. What can I say? All right, next, Greg's extra thoughts. He says, one thing I noticed in the location B-roll of the tennis courts where Jerry and Elaine play is that this place still very much exists right next to the Queensboro Bridge and is right by a Trader Joe's I was just at yesterday. I will try to go back in the next few days to get a photo. I know they shot the tennis scenes in LA, but it was cool to see a real NYC location, even if for a second. Agreed. That is so cool. And I did notice that it was under a bridge. I was like, wow, what an interesting place to put something, I guess. I mean, I know there are things that exist under the parts of the bridge that are over land, but that's so funny you say that. Queensboro Bridge. Okay, good to know. And we would love that picture, Greg. Please do take it. And if you're going to Trader Joe's, get their vegan tzatziki sauce. It is to die for. You cannot believe there's no dairy in it. And I have to buy it because dairy is not my friend, and I can eat that stuff by the tubful. And some days I do. I'm not proud of it. Next, Greg says, the model actress who plays Milos's wife in this, Ivana Milicevic, was in so many things in the late 90s and early 2000s. I remember that face and that voice, especially in episodes of Friends and Just Shoot Me. But I most remember her from one of my guilty pleasure movies, which I would have as a Greg pick, but people would think Gene's trash. Nice. Head Over Heels, starring Monica Potter and Freddie Prinze Jr. Oh my God, what a blast from the past. Does anyone remember this film? Ivana played a roommate of Monica Potter's character, and she was great in it. I feel like I did see it, but I have literally no memory of it. Whatever happened to Monica Potter? Oh, I guess she was in that Parenthood show, wasn't she? She was a big star for a while. She was sort of the it girl. And same with Freddie Prinze Jr. He was sort of the it boy. I just actually did see an interview with him semi-recently about how he kind of left the business. He wanted a normal life. I was like, respect. Anyway, I did not know she was in that film. Okay, good to know. And I don't know if that's a Gene's trash, but, a Greg pick. I would take a Greg pick over a Gene pick. I'll put it that way, because Weekend at Bernie's too. No, fuck that noise. And lastly, Greg says, I don't want to finish writing about this episode. I love it so much. Oh, okay. Well, you just did, Greg. You just finished. And we are so thankful that you sent your thoughts. Thank you so much. We always love them. And now it's time to close Greg's sack lunch. All right, moving on to my favorite Elaine moments. I got to go with there are no jerk stores. It's not a big moment, but to me, it is so funny. It's my favorite. We will say that in my house randomly. Like if someone just says the word jerk, like how Greg is triggered by the name Gene. If someone says the word jerk, either me or my husband will be like, there are no jerk stores. It's just a little confusing is all. Those two lines can just, they make me laugh so hard. And then a close second is aahhhhcne. She's saying so much in that moment. Like it's her reaction to seeing Vincent in the flesh. Like, holy shit, he's a minor. He's super young. His mother's interrogating me. He has acne. Like, and there's so much she could say in response to all of that happening in like 2 seconds, but she just chooses acne. Like that's the most shocking part. Oh, so brilliant. And now my final notes. The plot for Elaine in this episode is it's sort of out there. And like Greg says, it's creepy, right? Like she's basically being stalked, but I like it. It's so of the time. I always loved a staff pick collection. And I will admit, I always love a staff pick section of any store. I think more now you see them in like independent bookstores. I will always visit those staff recommendations because a lot of times they'll have a little card that they've written out why they like the book. And I take the time to look at it. And I have picked up three books that were staff recommended and they were all fantastic. So any kind of staff recommendation it's a good thing for me. We see another version of desperate Elaine here, how far she's willing to, I guess, not go to screen a guy, a mysterious Vincent she's attracted to just because of movie taste and then stalks you. I mean, come on, Elaine, you can do better. JLD does get some good range with her plot, but I think we could have used more with her in the Kramer plot. Like, I love that she's involved in there as a cold-hearted businesswoman. Like I said, that meeting could have been longer. That scene was really cool. We had Ben Stein, who's such a funny actor. So I just feel like that scene, we could have played with that more. I wanted to see more of her cutthroatedness with Kramer in other ways. And of course, I would also enjoy more Benestanza. We do get a couple scenes with them, which is great, but their plots don't have reason to cross over that much, which is fine. So I think they did as much Benestanza as they could have. So we did get some really funny moments with that. And I think that's all I can say about the comeback. Please be sure to follow Hot and Heavy on social media. On Instagram, it's at Hot Heavy Elaine. On TikTok, Elaine Bennis Podcast. And you can comment, and your comment could make it onto the podcast. Like that happened today with the comeback post that I did. Also, if you'd like to email me, please do at elainepodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time.